Hi, my name is Incat. Welcome to or back to my channel. Today is April 1st, which means we need to film a wrap-up, a journal update, and a TBR. So I'm going to start with the books that I read for my physical TBR and a few stats. So for the month of April, I read 15 books, which totaled out to 4,663 pages. Like last month, I'm not going to talk about every single one individually. I will show you my stack. This is everything that I read from my physical TBR. I also read one ARC and then 6 books from the library. So of these, my standouts were Such a Fun Age, The Spell Shop, The Enchanted Greenhouse, and I also really liked People We Meet on Vacation. Can I talk? And then of the library books that I read, my favorites were Lake Lore, I'll pop it up on this side, by Anna Marie McLemore, and Little Rot by Akiki Mezi. Those were both either 4 or 5 stars, somewhere in that range. And then I still have some books that I'm currently reading. Also, I will try to talk about at least a good chunk of the books that I read when we're doing my journal update. I have decided that I'm just not really going to talk about books I didn't enjoy. I'm going to say I read them and then move on. So if I'm not talking about something, it's probably because it either wasn't good or it just didn't hit me like other books did. So these are the books that I'm still in the middle of. I didn't make any progress with the second Death of Locke this month, and I am about halfway through the Pohaku. It is my February release for Herkyed, so I need to get moving on that. I think it came out on like February 8th, so I technically still have a week before I hit the 60-day after publication mark, so we haven't lost a square yet. And then the Bridge Kingdom and Crooked Kingdom, I have been working on these two for quite a while. I didn't make any progress in Bridge Kingdom or Second Death of Locke, but I did make progress in these other two. Then I might as well show you my hauls right now. I will say that the financial situation at my household has drastically changed in the last week or so. We went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household unexpectedly. So for the time being, the hauls are going to be fairly small. I will say April is my birthday month, and I am still allowing myself to get 3 books. I'm still going to let myself get 3 books for my birthday. That's still in the budget. I have money saved up for that. And I am going to try and make those used books. We will have to see what the used bookstore has. And we are going to a new to us bookstore. I think it's been open for a while, but I have never gone. And I'm hoping to get 1 book from them and then the rest from the used bookstore. So these are the hauls. I have skipped both Illumicrate and Owlcrate for April. I did not skip Aardvark because it was already paid for, but until my partner finds a job or we figure out what we're doing, I will be skipping Aardvark from now on. So I have an Aardvark book and I have the, I think, Illumicrate. I'm pretty sure it's Illumicrate. Yes, I have the March Illumicrate book. I do also have the March Owlcrate book on the way, but it shipped late, so that will count towards April's total. So this is the one that I picked from Aardvark this month. I don't know anything about this author or honestly the book, but the cover really got me. I also don't tend to enjoy male romances. I think I just kind of hate men in general. So we'll see how this goes for me. I am hoping that it's still good, but I am also questioning why I picked it. And then this is the March Illumicrate book, so skip ahead if you don't want to see it. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Alright, have you moved on? The March Illumicrate book was Aisha by Soraya Buazoui. I'm really sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that last name. I need to look that up. but I am excited for it. People in the Discord group that I'm in have been reading it and liking it, so hopefully I enjoy it too. Now, before we flip around and look at my journal, I am going to go through my TBR. Normally, I play the game that I have in my journal, but April is the spring semester of Magical Readathon, or Orilium. If you follow Book Roast, that is her readathon, and it's really fun. I have realized that I've made a mistake. So this year she announced that there are higher callings, which are like grad school in this world. And in order to do higher callings, you have to have completed 4 years of a lower calling. And I haven't really been keeping track of which calling I did each semester, and I have had a bad habit of just picking whichever one sounds fun every semester, so I know I haven't done 4 years. But I am going to pick one that I know I've done, and I'm going to stick with it so that I can move on to a higher calling eventually. That one is a beast minder, a beast keeper. I can't remember the exact name of it, but for that I need to do elemental studies, which is a temperature warden title. For that I picked The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name either. I got this in a Secret Santa White Elephant gift exchange at a book club a couple of years ago, so I need to read that. And then I have to do animal studies, which is wolves, either in the cover title or just in the content. And for that one, I do have a library book, and it is The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. This is the buddy read for fall into Steph's Patreon. Somebody from the library dog-eared a page. Rude. That this copy has like red sprayed edges. I'm not sure how my library ended up with this. But anyways, I have the audiobook for it as well, so I will be starting that in the next week. Then I also need to do Alchemy, which was a reread. And for that, I chose The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. This is the Fairy Loot edition. I did order the Fairy Loot edition of the sequel. That's already paid for, thank goodness. So I will be getting that in June or July, I think. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I really loved it, and I am excited to reread it. But I also am like frustrated because I have all of these new books that I want to read, and I wasn't really feeling a reread for April, but here we are. I think I can get the audiobook on Hoopla with no wait, so I will probably be doing that. The fourth prompt that I have to do for this calling is restoration, and that was asking for a 5-star recommendation and then picking one. I have 2 to pick from for this one, but I am likely going to go with Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, so I can return this to my mom while she's visiting this month. This is the start of a romance trilogy, I think. Supposedly you can read them without reading them in order, but multiple people have told me not to do that with Abby Jimenez's books, so I will not be doing that. But my library book club is reading the 3rd one in the series in June or July or something like that, so I need to read the rest of the series before that. So that's why this is probably going to be the one that I pick. But she also suggested Soul Searching by Lila Sage, which I'm annoyed that I haven't read yet. I pre-ordered this, and I wish that I had just read it when I got it, but I did not, so that's another option. And then for my last prompt, I have to do, it says lore. I think there might be more to that title, but I have to do lore, and that is a dystopic or utopic book, and for that I chose Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinneman. This is the 2nd book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and I am counting his world as dystopic. For those who don't know what Dungeon Crawler Carl is about, this man is outside with his ex-girlfriend's cat that he somehow still has, and while he's outside with his girlfriend's cat one night, all of the buildings collapse because aliens have invaded and they have taken over Earth, essentially. And they create this dungeon that I think has like 14 or maybe 19 levels. I can't remember how many levels it has, but they have to get to each level within a certain time frame. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to count for dystopia. Moving on, I also want to talk about some books that don't fit into that TBR, but are ones that I want to try to read still. And first up is And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. This is the buddy read that my mom and I picked to read together. And I read the first one. I think it was called, I don't remember what it was called. First Time Caller. I read that last year and I really loved it. And this is the sequel. This is the Owl Crate version, I think. So, I'd like to get to that. And then I was supposed to read Wuthering Heights in February. Didn't do it, so I'm still trying to get to that. And then I was also supposed to read this in March for my Year of Cozy prompt, but we see that didn't happen. So I'm going to try and get to it in April instead. And then this last one is one that I'm also borrowing from my mom. With the change in income situation, we are also talking about potentially moving a lot sooner than we were anticipating. So I am trying my best to clear out the stacks if I can. So that means books that I borrowed from my mom or books that I think I'm going to sell, I want to prioritize. So this is one of those. I borrowed it from my mom. I read The Feeling of Falling in Love by the same author in March and it was just fine. It was YA and I didn't love it because of the YA. I think that was my main issue with it. It was just, it read way too young for me. And if I were in high school, I probably would have loved it, but I'm not. I'm almost 30 years old. So this is, I think, the author's adult debut. I'm not sure if this is the first thing that they've written for adult audiences, but it is the first one that I have that's for adult audiences. So I want to prioritize this. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about, books that I maybe want to prioritize. April is AAPI Heritage Month. That stands for Asian American and Pacific Islander. I've heard other versions of this that also include Native Hawaiian. So like all of those are encompassed in this month. And I'm not going to go through every single one of these. Oh! But I have this very large stack of primarily special editions that I want to prioritize. I guess prioritize isn't the right word since this other stack is what I'm prioritizing. I want to attempt to get through at least a couple of these. So I have Dragon Fruit and Hamajan Luck. These are both books that I borrowed from my mom. So again, more that I would like to return to her if I can while she's visiting in April. Then I have Water Moon. It's a special edition. If I end up not liking it, I would like to try and sell it. But I do think I'm going to like it. I have a good feeling about it. Beast of a Little Land has been on my TBR for multiple years. Don't know why I'm letting it sit there. I should be reading it. And then The Teller of Small Fortunes is actually one that I'm probably going to get to in the next week. I just got the audiobook from the library, and I think it also fits something for our fantasy that I would like to mark off sooner rather than later. So that will be a high priority for me. For those of you who did not know, Olivia Blake is Filipina, and I have this, and I also have Girl Dinner by her. So I will try to read one of them. Someone I know in Discord just read this and ended up loving it, so maybe it'll be this one. And then in February, I bought Catabasis for like 60-70% off at Barnes & Noble just so I could get my bag before my membership runs out, because I canceled that. I have a hit and miss relationship with Aura Kwong. I have read 2 books by her. I read Yellowface and I read Babel. I really loved Yellowface and I liked Babel, but it kind of went over my head. It was a little bit too academic for my liking. So I heard that this one was like Babel but with more humor. So I'm hoping it'll work out for me. That is everything I have to talk about over here. We are now going to flip around to my journal and fill that out. I unhauled 9 books from my red shelves after I found out about this one income situation. And then at the beginning of the month, I was already kind of feeling in the mood to unhaul, to get rid of books that I wasn't really caring about. And I got rid of 8 books then. And then 3 of the books that I read this month I will also be unhauling. I have The Feeling of Falling in Love, which will be going to my mom. And then The Little Book of Hugo. And I am also unhauling Authority simply because I want these editions instead of the like neon or pastel-y editions that I have of the first 3. I have this one and then I have the first one in these versions, and I'm going to be on the hunt for the second and third in these copies from a used bookstore probably. The only other thing I'm close to are selling 100 books. I think I'm pretty close. I sold over 30 this month, so that was a third of the goal. I might up this to 200 if I get to that point. I don't have anything to mark here. I will be removing Red Rising. I'm not going to continue the series. Those were some of the books that I got rid of at the beginning of the month, but I should have quite a bit of progress on this page at the end of April. I also don't have anything to mark on this page, but I do have something to add here. I don't have the printouts yet. I'm going to send my mom, maybe I might send my mom a list of book covers to print for me. She said she would do it, but I'm at the point where I need like over 100 book covers. So I might just figure that out by myself. But I have a queer horror to put here. I read Manhunt by Gretchen something or other. I can't remember their last name. But that will go here. That book was wild. I'll put up a picture of the cover here. I listened to it, and I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what I read. They were eating men's body parts and hunting feral men. There was a lot of sex, and I was kind of blown away the whole time. I don't really know what was going on. I enjoyed it, but I don't completely understand what I read. Do with that information what you will. I would say I recommend it, but look up the trigger warnings and maybe some better book reviews to get an idea of what you're getting yourself into. On our fantasy, I do have a couple to mark off. First and foremost, we went to see Project Hail Mary at the movies. So I can mark off not a book. I'm not going to write a review and post it to our fantasy, so this is not going to complete hard mode, but that's fine. And then for 17, I am putting Fellowship of the Ring. For this, I'm just going to put Lord of the Rings. I know what I mean by that. I can technically mark off 13 as well. I read The Enchanted Greenhouse, and that was published in 2025. But I also have The Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and I kind of want to put that in because that one would, I'm pretty sure, no, it's not a debut. It wouldn't do hard mode. I think for now I'm going to leave it unmarked, and if I don't get to the Magical Innkeeping book by the end of the year, I'll just put Enchanted Greenhouse in for it. For my lifestyle bingo, I don't think we can mark any of this off. I didn't really craft much in March. I wish I had crafted more. We are getting close to some of these book goals, and I have been working out 3 times a week. And I am still making progress towards the 20-pound dumbbells. I still can only do 10 pounds, maybe 12 pounds on a good day with my lateral raises. And I think that's going to be the holdup for marking off that 20-pound dumbbell thing, because I am up to 20 or 25 pounds on most of my exercises. All right, I do not currently have an idea of how many books I've bought. I need to go back and tally them up, but I did not do that for tonight. I can mark 20 of these spots off though. So I unhauled 3, oh, not quite 20. I did the math wrong. I can mark off 17. So I unhauled 8 unread books, and as of last month, I did decide to count those towards these because they were still books that were coming off of my TBR, so they're still serving the same purpose as reading a book. And then I read 8 books that I own and 1 ARC. So I can mark off 9 for that and 8 for the unhauls. So let me find my stickers. I think we're gonna finish out the sticker sheet for the first few. Alright, that sticker's really big, but we are at 13 so far. I'm going to move on to this sheet, I think. Great, so we are up to 39. That means I technically could have hauled 7 books by now. I'm pretty sure the number is higher than that. But with the current state of my life, we shouldn't have more issues with that. For these series, I do have some progress to mark. I made progress. I guess not progress. I read all of this. The Spell Shop does have a 3rd one coming out, I think, this year, so we're going to leave it for now. But I am technically caught up on that one. I don't think I made progress in any of these other ones this month. Oh, I did actually. I read Authority, so I can mark off the 2nd book in the Southern Reach Quartet. Alright, I think that's all I can mark on this page. For this one, I was supposed to fill it in on camera, and I just started writing things down without thinking. For the Year of Cozy, April is the month of growth, or I think it was like blooming or blossoming. So I made some goals of things that I want to happen in my life. So I am currently at 39 subs on YouTube. I would like to get to 50. I did take quite a bit of time off work this month for vacations and my birthday and some other stuff. So I can edit more videos than I have been, and I have a lot of vlogs sitting in the drafts to edit, so I'm hoping to have a video every week this month. And then this month I would like to read more than what I read in March, so I would like to read 15 or more books. And then I want to bump it out to 4 weekly workouts. I've been doing 3 most weeks. I think there's only been 1 or 2 weeks in the last few months that I did not get to 3 workouts. I would like that to be 4. Then I don't have the words for any of the rest of the months yet, but those will get filled in once Stephanie has chosen them. Then we're going to skip this for this month. Like I said, I am doing Magical Readathon, so that picked our TBR for this month. For TBR Explorer, I decided to use the Enchanted Greenhouse for Found Family, I think in the plot. Yes. So that is my March selection for the TBR Explorer prompts. And then I still haven't read anything with a historical setting, so we can't mark that one off yet. And I also cannot mark off Child on the Cover for March. We will work on that by the end of the year. But I chose Lake Lore, which was something that I read for the Trans Rights Readathon in March for child protagonists. Both of our main characters are like 13, 14 years old. They're pretty young. And then for booktuber recommendation, I chose Detransition Baby. Technically, it's not really a recommendation because Stephanie hasn't read it, but she did vote for me to read it, so I'm counting that as a recommendation. So both of these were books that I read for the Trans Rights Readathon, which ran from March 17th through the end of the month. And the final day was also Trans Day of Remembrance or Day of Visibility, depending on who you ask. I ended up reading technically 6 books for this readathon, but I read one of them before the readathon started, so I only read 5 during the readathon. Manhunt, which I already spoke about, was one of those. Lake Lore is a middle grade about 2 kids. One of them is actively transitioning and the other is non-binary. And I think they both have ADHD or dyslexia. I think one of them has ADHD and one of them has dyslexia. And we get their life stories pretty much, and I found it very powerful and moving. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it to most people, although I generally don't enjoy YA or middle grade. This was an exception to that. And then for Detransition Baby, this is about a man named Ames who used to be a trans woman named Amy. He detransitioned at some point in his life and ended up losing his relationship with his partner. His partner's name was Reese, and she is a trans woman. Well, Ames thinks that he cannot get people pregnant because he was on T for so long, and he has assumed that he is no longer fertile, and that ends up being wrong. And he is sleeping with his boss and ends up getting her pregnant. And I don't quite understand what Ames thought he was doing when he asked this of his ex-partner, but he thought it would be a really great idea to ask Reese to take care of the child with the 2 of them. And I think he did this because Reese really wanted to have a child, but that never happened for them. But overall, the book was okay, but I felt very confused by the situation. I'm not confused by like having multiple moms, multiple parents, whatever. I get that part. I just don't understand why Ames thought Reese would want to do that when they did not end their relationship on a good note, you know? He also did not ask his current partner if that was okay before he went and talked to Reese about it, and that really rubbed me the wrong way. So, this book was fine, but I don't know. I didn't rate it because it made me feel so weird. But I also think people could get a lot out of it. I don't know. Anyways, that's that. Moving on. We are going to Herkyed. I am going to start filling in the alphabet challenge. I actually was supposed to do it tonight, but I don't think I wrote any of that down. So I'm going to go in after this and fill it in, and I'll show you tomorrow probably. So we will skip these first 2 pages. I have a book to add to the last 12 years, Little Rot, which was something else that I read for the Trans Rights Readathon, was published in 2024. And this is by Akwaeke Emezi. I highly recommend this book. This is about multiple people. I can't remember where they live. It's somewhere in Africa. They end up having interconnected lives, and a few of the characters are trans women who maybe end up entangled in the wrong kind of social groups. Basically, they're living like very dangerous lives, and yeah, I think that's all I can really say without spoiling it. I would recommend it. I would say probably check the trigger warnings. It was very dark. There was a lot of sexual assault in it. So if that's not something that you can read, then I would not recommend this. Otherwise, I think you should try it. And then I am also going to add Annihilation here to the quartet. I originally had Annihilation somewhere else. I think I had it in like sci-fi or something, but I'm just going to move it to this one instead so that I can knock out the quartet by finishing those other 2 books. And then I don't have anything to add to the Animal Challenge or any of the other years yet. For Around the World, I'm also going to put Little Rot in Africa. And then for the Queer Rainbow, I can put Lake Lore for non-binary. And then I can also put Manhunt in for the trans rep. And then for Heritage Months, March was Women's History Month, and I'm just going to count People We Meet on Vacation for this, because I don't have anywhere else to put it, and I also didn't read any like women's history books, otherwise I would put that here. And then for Disability Rep, I have Lake Lore. I'm counting the ADHD and dyslexia as the Disability Rep. Then I did not read anything that was translated this month, so we can't put anything in that. For new releases, I am just going to write in the Pohaku for here. I'm like halfway done with it, so it doesn't count for March, but I will have it done by the time it's 60 days out. And then for March, I read I Love You Don't Die by Jade Song. This one was okay. So I read Chlorine by Jade Song last year, and I loved it up until the end. I felt like the end was so anticlimactic. It wasn't nearly as weird as the rest of the book. And then with I Love You Don't Die, my opinion was the exact opposite. So for like the beginning of the book, I really liked it. It drew me in. But then for the middle 50% or so, I was just kind of, I don't know, like left hanging. I wasn't really like sure of what was going on. I wasn't really sure why I should care. And there's a romantic relationship that develops, but it's not developed enough for me to care deeply about what happens at the end. I did call one of the big reveals, but like it didn't make sense with the amount of time we had spent with these people. So I ended up giving this one like 3.5 or 4 stars. It was still pretty good, but I was just kind of disappointed. Oh, and the ending was explosive compared to the rest of the book, which was the exact opposite of how I felt with Chlorine. So I would also recommend that one. Definitely look up trigger warnings for that too. I don't want to tell you what they are in case you don't want to know going in, and some of them will some of them will spoil plot points later on in the book. So just look at your own risk. Moving on, I don't have anything for award season yet. I'm still working on picking that. For By the Hundreds, I read something called Falling Back in Love with Being Human, I think. We're just going to abbreviate that as Falling Back. It's like 170 pages or something. And these are all little vignettes or essays. It was technically non-fiction of falling back in love with the human experience. I wish I had this physically. I ended up listening to it on Libby, and I just didn't catch a lot of it. I was even listening to it on a slower speed than I normally do, and I still was missing things just because some of them were so short. It was like you blink and you miss it, kind of short. So I would like to get a physical copy and try reading it again. And then I'm also going to count Detransition Baby for this, for the 300s. I've already spoken about that one, so we won't go over it. Next, I have 3 things to put in the genre challenge. For romance, we are also going to count People We Meet on Vacation. And then nonfiction, we're going to count that poetry essay collection. I also find it funny that there's a nonfiction here and then you have a nonfiction specific spot. So I can't count this one here too because I've already used it twice. But I just noticed that when I was filling this in earlier. I thought it was funny. I also have a literary fiction to put in here, and that was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. I really loved this book. I also have Come and Get It by this author, and I'm really excited to get to that one. Such a Fun Age is about this black nanny who is taking care of a white child. They have some sort of situation, and she takes the child a couple blocks away from the house, probably like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and the security guard ends up calling the police on her because another patron thinks that she has kidnapped this child. And it's a whole situation, and the rest of the book is going back and forth between her point of view and the mother's point of view that she's a nanny for. And we're getting like flashbacks because actually I can't tell you why we're getting flashbacks. That's a pretty big spoiler. But we get to see how this family thinks they need to handle things as a white family with a black nanny, and how this nanny kind of just wants to move on with her life and be left alone. She doesn't want to become famous because of this. I really loved it. I thought it was written very well. I was enthralled the entire time, and I think everyone should read it. We're also going to count that book for BIPOC rep. Kylie Reid, I'm pretty sure, is black. And then I also have that Jade Song book here, I Love You Don't Die. I did question whether or not to include Asian authors in this. The internet says that BIPOC is like an umbrella term and it counts all people of color, so I ultimately decided to include them here. However, I do want to acknowledge that not everyone in those groups sees themselves as a person of color. So, just to be clear. And we also read So We Meet Again for Library Book Club. Nobody in book club liked this one, unfortunately. I think I gave it 2 stars. It was just, we all came to the conclusion that because this is one of the author's first forays into adult writing, she primarily wrote YA before this, that maybe the writing just wasn't developed enough for an adult contemporary romance. It was still fine. It was fun. It was just not completely believable. Yeah, I think that was our main issue with the book. It's about a woman who gets laid off from her finance job in New York City, and she ends up moving back in with her parents, and she revitalizes her Asian home cooking YouTube channel and turns it into a business. And she is romantically involved with this guy who is a lawyer, and he ends up getting involved with her business, and I will just leave it at that. And then I also, actually, that is the last one for this. I had Such a Fun Age on there twice. I didn't put anything down for the Rainbow Challenge. I probably could, but I don't have anything right now. So we're going to skip that. And then for a movie, I'm putting Lord of the Rings. I'm not quite clear on what some of these squares mean, so I need to go do some research about that after this. I might be able to fill in some of them. And then the last thing that I can fill in for this one is the spell shop for magic user. Like I said earlier, I really love the spell shop and the enchanted greenhouse. These follow 2 different women in a world where magic is used, and they both are somehow involved with the great library in the capital city, but the capital city has fallen to rebels, and the library is like getting burned down. So one of them runs, one of them has been turned into a statue for illegally using magic, and she wakes up somewhere else. They were both very good. I just didn't love the romance that was in them. Yeah, I liked both of them. I thought they were both very cute, very fun, but they had just enough stakes to make it really interesting. However, both of them involved a romance that I personally felt was very forced. It didn't feel natural to the storyline. It felt like, oh, a man showed up and she's automatically in love with him kind of thing. But yeah, that was really my only issue with the books. If you can get the audiobooks for them, I think they're great. There are talking plants in both of them, and the voices for the talking plants are really cute. And then for our last spread, I hauled 2 books. I think I unhauled 20 total, including the read, the unread, and the books from what I read in March. And then I read 15 total books. That equaled out to 4,663 pages. And then total sold was 36. So let's add that up really quick. That's 58. I'm at 70. So I need to sell 30 more books to reach my 100 book goal. At those 36 books equaled out to $135.39. It's definitely the biggest month of the year so far. My best book would have to be the Spell Shop series, I think. Or Such a Fun Age, actually. I think Such a Fun Age is my best book. All 3 of them were very good, though. They're the top 3. And then my worst book was probably So We Meet Again, unfortunately. And again, it wasn't like the worst book I've ever read. It just was not very good in my book club's opinion. And with that is March wrapped up. I will hopefully have quite a few videos edited and posted throughout the month of April. Otherwise, you can find me over on Instagram. I do post a little more regularly over there, although it's still kind of sporadic. And yeah, that's it. I don't know how to end this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having an okay time wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video soon. Bye!